I'm here to talk to you today about CBD, cannabinoids in general. Before we get started, high command over there, her name is Karen McPherson. She has a sign-in sheet, and if you guys wouldn't mind signing in, I'd appreciate it. Okay, great. All right, well, let's get started. So I live in Chatham, Mass, which is right up the road. I'm 57 years old. I'm an aging athlete, played all sorts of sports my whole life. And I had, back in 2018, I had a golfing injury, already not working. So maybe go get Lisa again. Just go get Lisa. It's not. I had a golfing injury in my lower back. Didn't know what it was. I played through the pain. I took about 20 plus Advil to get me through. When I got home, my wife yelled at me and said, "That's really super dangerous. You could die from something like that. Stressing out your liver." It's not forwarding. Yeah, it's so I didn't know what it was. I was in extreme pain. I could not stand up. I could not sit down. I certainly couldn't lie down. And I didn't know what to do. I called a good friend of mine who was a orthopedic surgeon, and he was seriously concerned. He said, by the amount of golf that you're playing every day, I have an idea what it is, and it could be bad. And he kind of scared me a lot. I also spoke to a neighbor of mine who sent me to a chiropractor. When I went to go see the chiropractor, the first thing he said to me was, "Do you know what CBD is?" At the time, I had no knowledge of what it was. Let me turn my phone off. But I was so desperate for anything. I would have done anything. I would have gone to any extreme to do something. So he ended up started talking to me about CBD in general. He started high mega dosing me with broad spectrum CBD, and that I was taking internally, ingesting it, as well as topically putting it on my back. And he didn't lay a finger on me for 2 weeks or so, and then he went to work. But I got to say, it opened my eyes in a profound way, and it really got my attention fast. So I ended up doing a little bit of a deep dive on it. And at the time, I was living back in Greenwich, Connecticut. I had just sold my company, and my kids were all out of the house, and we were moving up to Cape Cod full time. And I have a middle son who's kind of a nerdy Wall Street analyst, and he started sending me information about the growth of CBD, and it opened my eyes just from a growth perspective. And so between him, the doctor, helping my back, between my son, like showing me a lot of stuff from Wall Street's perspective, I started doing a lot of research on my own. I was poking around on the internet, and I came across a famous doctor on CNN whose name is Dr. Sanjay Gupta, this was back in 2018, right? So the world's a little bit different, right? It's 2019. And he was saying that cannabis is going to profoundly change medical science worldwide. I would encourage everybody here to go and do your own research. But I was blown away. And so anyhow, it got my attention. I moved up here with my wife and 2 crazy Jack Russell Terrier dogs. And I ended up, I started researching the industry more and more. So I traveled around the country, and there was a company that I was looking at buying, which was in Michigan, and I didn't do it. But instead, I've got a good friend of mine who's on the West Coast, very bright guy. His wife is also a physician, and we decided to open up our own company and try to figure that out. So that was sort of the beginning of the journey. And before we go any further, I just want to let everybody know that I am not a physician. I'm not a doctor. I would always highly encourage people to speak to their doctor with anything that they're going to take. Okay. Here are some of the common questions that we're going to go through today. What is CBD? Is CBD from the marijuana plant? What is the difference between CBD and THC? What does CBD do to the body? What are the benefits of taking CBD? Will you get high from taking CBD? Can you drive a car after using CBD? Is it safe for your pets? And we're going to talk about dosing from the FDA. Everyone with me so far? Okay, let's start with CBD. So CBD is short for cannabidiol, which is naturally found in hemp plants. CBD is a natural substance obtained from the plants and promotes wellness without the psychoactive or intoxicating effects. The hemp plant is the cousin of the marijuana plant, widely confused. We're going to go into detail about that. But unlike the marijuana plant, it contains no more than just a trace amount of THC, which is the psychoactive element, the molecule that gives you that euphoric high. With CBD, there's three types. There's full spectrum, broad spectrum, and isolate. In simple terms, full spectrum has the most amount of it's a very small trace amount of THC, very, very little, but out of the three, it has the most. Isolate is the purest. It's isolating the molecule, and it's so pure that, in my humble opinion, it's a waste of time. It takes everything that's good out of it, and I think isolate, although some people do take it, I'm not a proponent of it. Broad spectrum is right there in the middle. And as a company, my partner and I decided on focusing just on that. A lot of companies will say that broad spectrum has no THC whatsoever. I challenge that. You'd have to, if you take a hair and you splice the hair, and then you splice the splice and splice the splice, there is a way for a tiny trace amount of THC to be present. The only reason why that's an issue is because we have we speak to a lot of people that are in the government, military, and a lot of people in this world are still getting drug tested regularly, and to get flagged with THC is a major no bueno. It could be a problem, but the chances are still very remote if you're taking broad spectrum daily that it will show up. Possibilities there, but it's probably not going to happen. Down below where it says the entourage effect. Okay, so full spectrum is CBD, but it has a slight more amount of the trace amount of THC. It's the same thing, but it just has it's less than 0.3%. So, and again, this is super important for people, because if you're being tested, and many companies still are testing or drug testing. So again, if you're taking full spectrum, it's probable that you will flag THC. Broad spectrum, it's very, very probable that you will not, but could it happen? Yes. Many companies will say that that broad spectrum, there is no THC. That is factually incorrect. The entourage effect is a term which refers to it's bringing the best of everything together. So in the CBD world, the entourage effect is a good thing, because there are in broad spectrum, there are other minor cannabinoids that are in there that are interacting with terpenes and other things that can have a very positive effect on your body. And again, the isolate has none. So the entourage effect is just sort of an industry term that it's a good thing. There's lots of other things that are helping. CBD is not required with a prescription. You could purchase it over the counter. You could purchase it in a gas station. You could purchase it there's lots of different places where you can get it. We're going to talk about in detail what to look for and why, what's important about it and what to be careful about. Okay. What are cannabinoids? So CBD is an active compound known as cannabinoid. CBD is essentially it's a molecule, okay? CBD is derived from hemp. It's one of about 130 major and minor cannabinoids. This industry is moving so fast that when we opened up our company back in January-ish of 2020, so it's about 2 years coming up, there were about 110 cannabinoids which were identified. So in 2 short years, an additional 20 cannabinoids have been identified. Cannabinoids provide therapeutic effects when consumed by humans and animals. Cannabis plants are famous for producing CBD and THC, 2 very similar cannabinoids with one major difference. THC induces that euphoric high that people experience when they smoke pot. It has a lot of other things as well, but CBD does not have, by taking CBD, you could take thousands and thousands of milligrams of CBD and you're never going to get high. You might get a stomach ache, but you're not going to get high. Okay, got some water here. This is a simple slide that we like to illustrate the difference between marijuana and hemp. It's confusing a lot of people, and if you saw that, if your neighbor had a hemp plant next door to you, you might think it's marijuana. They look very similar, but they're very different plants. So the world of marijuana and hemp combined is called cannabis. Okay, so that's marijuana and hemp. And the major cannabinoid that's coming from the marijuana plant is THC. The major cannabinoid that's coming from the hemp plant is CBD. We have this simple flow chart here just to kind of put it in very simple terms. We like to say, if you take grapes and there's grapes juice is coming from the grape, it's very different than wine, right? So they're both coming from the same place. They're in the same family, but you can drink a whole bunch of juice and you're never going to get the effect if you had one glass of wine. Everybody with me so far? Okay. We're going to talk about the history of cannabis. So hemp has been around for thousands of years for a lot of different purposes. Here in the United States, it dates back to the first settlements of Jamestown in the 1600s, and they used it for ropes, sails, clothing, furniture, all sorts of things. There are many towns which have come from the name hemp: Hempstead, New York on Long Island, or Hempfield, Pennsylvania, Hemp Hill, Kentucky. A little known factoid: the Declaration of Independence was actually drafted on hemp paper. A lot of farmers in Virginia back then were using hemp as a currency to purchase goods and trade whatever. In the early 1900s, hemp fell into the same classification of marijuana and was thus demonized due to lack of information and financial interest. So we're going to talk about that. Hemp was very incorrectly grouped together with marijuana, hash, and opium. The cotton industry at this time, in the turn of the century, was very threatened by the existence of hemp. because hemp, again, was being used to make clothing, was being used for, it was like a miracle substance that could help with so many things. So they started slandering hemp. Then there were some families, the Mellon family and the DuPont family, you might have heard of them. They harvested thousands, maybe millions of acres of wood that they used for all sorts of things, furniture, blah, blah, blah. They had cotton fields as well. And they were nervous, and because they were so threatened by this new thing called hemp that was getting hugely popular. And they collaborated with someone who had the power to make a change. William Randolph Hearst was the magnate back then for news and publications, and he had a vested interest in these other industrialists as well, because he needed their paper, their wood to make the paper for his newspapers. So the three of those people got together and they created a false narrative that hemp is bad, and they connected it with marijuana. And you might remember the movies from the 20s, Reefer Madness and all sorts of stuff. But can you believe that in this country, people would do such a thing like that? They would actually lie for the benefit of themselves? Well, that happened in real time. So 1937, the Marijuana Tax Act was enacted. And that was due to the collaboration of those three very powerful families. And that act made hemp cultivation illegal. It also prevented hemp. It prevented research for hemp for the next 80 or so years, which brought us to 2018. That's 2018. There was a bill that was passed. It was pushed through from the Obama administration. There was a lot of things that happened in between that, by the way, like in the Vietnam War. The United States Navy needed ways to make their ropes and lines happen, and President Nixon at the time gave them a special wave-in, and so a lot of interesting things were happening. So the word was definitely getting out there that it wasn't so bad. But long story short, 2018, Obama administration reversed the course. He was pushing it for a long time, and it was enacted in 2018. But during all this, there still is. Dr. McCollum is a scientist who's Israeli, and the epicenter for cannabinoid studies still exists in Israel. And Dr. McCollum has been studying cannabinoids, all sorts of cannabinoids, since the 1940s. And from what I read, and I read a lot about him, he's in his mid-90s, and he works every single day. So God bless him. The next iteration from a legal perspective that we're looking at is the hemp bill. And the hemp bill, there's lots of talk that it's going to be happening maybe this year, 2023, or very soon. So the hemp bill is going to be just an extension of the Farm Bill, clarifying more things. Everyone with me so far? Okay. How does CBD work? Okay. CBD works by interacting in the body's endocannabinoid system. I'm assuming people don't know what the endocannabinoid system is. We all have an endocannabinoid system. And the endocannabinoid system is a vitally important system, which every movement your body makes, when you blink your eyes, when you feel hunger, when you're scared, when you move your leg, when you raise your hand, It's all going through your endocannabinoid system in one fashion or another. The endocannabinoid system, by the way, was only recently discovered in 1988. So this is how fast the endocannabinoid world is evolving. So let's get back to what it is. So it's basically, it's an internal network of receptors that keep the body in balance. Our body is able to produce its own cannabinoids, which interact with the endocannabinoid system. So we are all cannabinoids. All of us right now are filled with cannabinoids. And the endocannabinoid system is what's generating your own personal cannabinoids. When your body is not producing enough endocannabinoids, you become deficient in various things. So sometimes people don't sleep well. Well, there's a reason for that. Sometimes people get injured more or get sick more or experience anxiety. There's a whole host of lots of things that the endocannabinoid system is responsible for. This little chart here is super important. And the most important piece that I always like to point to is the immune system. To me, the immune system is a miracle system that is the most important thing we have, because the immune system is identifying threats that are coming into the body every single day. There's thousands of them that are trying to make you sick. So the immune system has to be, it's like a carburetor in your car. It has to be healthy so it can fight off everything that's happening. Okay. Other pieces. So that there are these little dots that are around the body. Those are called receptor sites. And when you're taking CBD, again, it's a molecule. CBD is going through your endocannabinoid system, and it's identifying deficiencies your body might have. I'm going to give you an example of how this works and how it's different. My own family, I have 3 children, 30, 28, 26. My wife and I joke to each other many times, how is it possible we have 3 kids raised in the same house, under the same roof, and they are 3 completely different human beings? How is that possible? That's possible because on a molecular level, we are all different people. And for example, my oldest guy, PJ, doesn't know what stress is. He's born blessed with the fact that he experiences no anxiety ever. He could have $1 in his bank account and everything's great. My middle guy, Jack, stresses about everything. Okay. He's a very bright, successful guy, and he might have millions of dollars in his bank account. For all I know, he wouldn't tell me that. And he stresses about the littlest things. So anxiety for him is a big part of his life. My daughter, Katie, is an extreme athlete. She never gets injured, knock on wood. She's not a great sleeper. And so in her, molecularly speaking, those deficiencies they have are a direct result of what deficiencies their bodies might have. So look at it this way. Take sleep, okay? If this is a gas tank and if the needle is all the way up, that means your cannabinoids are riding on full, you're going to sleep well, generally speaking. When that needle goes down, like a gas tank, supporting your body with more cannabinoids or CBD, that's raising that level, so your sleep patterns will be better. Any questions so far? If I'm going fast, please tell me.
Well, with the rub you gave us.
Yeah,
That's topical.
that's a topical.
That's not getting into the system.
It is, but it's, I'm going to explain that. Stay with me. Okay. The most important thing that we have that we're looking for, it's a fancy word called homeostasis. Homeostasis means balance. That's all it means. When you want your body to be in homeostasis, we've all experienced when our body's not in homeostasis for lots of reasons. Maybe my body was not in homeostasis yesterday because on Wednesday night, I drove, I had a very long day. I got back to my bed at like 1:15 or 1:30 in the morning. I had to get up early and I had very little sleep and I was tired. I was run down. I was out of balance. I was not in homeostasis. We want our bodies to be running in homeostasis all the time. So CBD possesses many therapeutic uses for the body and for your brain. So pharmacological studies talk about, and the science is catching up all the time, but when you're ingesting it or applying it topically, Dave, to your question, Dave, right? Okay. It can help with ailments. I've just named a few. Inflammation is the big one. Pain, discomfort, anxiety, insomnia, upset stomach. You know, it's allergy, sickness, focus, upset stomach, memory loss, et cetera, et cetera. It's helping with all those things because again, it's going into your endocannabinoid system. It's identifying a weakness or deficiency, and it's supporting that. It's bolstering that process. Does anybody know what runner's high is? Okay, so runner's high is something that people experience when they run a lot and they get this euphoric feeling and they feel so great. And what happens, that's a chemical reaction between dopamine, how that's impacting with their endocannabinoid system, and it's making them feel great. Lots of like long distance runners will say, wow, I had this euphoric, like it happens. I don't know why, but for different people at different times, but 8 miles, 10 miles, 12 miles, where they get into this zone, the state where they're feeling amazing. And that's because it's tapping in to their endocannabinoid system, and it's going to their CB1 receptor in their brain, and it's giving you that euphoric feeling, which is pulling out the cannabinoid in their body, which helps with that. Okay. Pets. So I'm a dog person. And like I mentioned earlier, I've got 2 crazy Jack Russell Terriers who are a big part of my life, bigger part of my wife's life than my life, but nevertheless in my family. And I have recently learned in the last 6 months or so that pets, or I'm going to say canines specifically, actually have more receptor sites than us human beings. I'm going to go back here for a second. These are all the receptor sites, all these little dots. And CB1 receptor, which is really from your nervous system in your brain, and CB2 is elsewhere, but primarily CB1 receptor sites are in your head, so that your nervous system is important for that, for cognitive features, et cetera. But the receptor sites, again, are hugely important, but they're saying canines, scientific studies are showing more and more that canines actually have many more receptor sites than us human beings do. They help, just like for us humans, they help the dogs in many ways. I'm going to tell you, it's kind of a sidebar story. Before I got into this business and got it started, I purchased all this CBD. I had it all over my house. My wife thought I was crazy. I didn't understand it. I was trying to learn about it. And everyone knows here around Cape Cod during the 4th of July, it's loud with fireworks, and it can be stressful for people that don't like loud noises. My older dog, Lily, She does not like the sound of a motorcycle, thunder, lightning, whatever, a truck. She gets really anxious and nervous. So on the 4th of July, three 4th of July's ago, my dog is shaking uncontrollably. My wife is saying, do something with all the CBD. Not knowing what I was doing, I took CBD from a tincture oil bottle, jammed it right down her throat. Again, not knowing what I was doing. I gave her about 20 times or 25 times what's normal for what you would give for a pet. And within just a few minutes, her tongue was hanging out, her eyes were open, she went completely limp, and my wife screamed at me, "You killed Lily." Thankfully, I didn't. And Lily took an 8-hour nap. She was very mellow for a long time. But that moment proved to me the power of what CBD can be. To give you scale, so at bedtime, so both my Jacks, one of them, Stanley, is about 18 pounds and Lily is about 12 pounds. At nighttime, my wife cuts a treat in half, our dog treats, and they each get 1 milligram of CBD every night. There is no question that my dogs are better than they ever were. They're Jack Russell, so they're a little bit naturally more crazy than most other dogs. They sleep better. Their hair, their fur is healthier. My older Jack, Lily, is almost 11. She's more puppy-like than she's ever been, and she's great. So, seeing it firsthand with our pets. Okay, for felines and cats, they have receptor sites just like canines and just like us humans. I can't tell you enough about that yet. I'm learning about cats, but there's a woman who works for me. She has 4 cats, and she gives her cats CBD every single day, very, very successfully, and she feels like it's really helped her in a big way. Okay. CBD quality and serving amount. So how do you take CBD? There's lots of ways where you could buy it. You could buy it in a tincture bottle, which is this. You could buy it in capsules, which are soft gels. You could buy it in a form of edibles, which are called gummies. You could buy it for creams, like topicals, salves, and in Israel, I have here on the bottom suppositories. Not to get too graphic, but in Israel they're doing amazing trials and research, and they're giving people who are in comas, they're giving high doses of CBD to them through the suppository, and they're having profound results with that. So those are the primary ways you can do it. I get a lot of questions about, well, I'm reading about CBD and sodas and colas and coffees and all this kind of stuff. That's possible, and the FDA looks at that. It's illegal under the eyes of the FDA for any company to be selling CBD in beer, or I read about that in some restaurants and bars. It's out there and it's being sold. It doesn't make it legal. But the tinctures, soft gels, gummies, topicals, and suppositories, that's take the suppository stuff, but the other 4 are quite common. Now, third-party lab testing is hugely important. It's not by law, but it's every quality CBD company has a third-party lab, which is taking the CBD that you have, and it's verifying it, and letting you know that what you're buying, what's being stated on that bottle, actually is what it is. So it's something called for the companies that are complying, it's something called a COA or certificate of analysis or authenticity. That's, again, is telling you that, okay, I bought the CBD and it's stating, I go online and I get to the lab and the lab will pull up, okay, this bottle with this lot number and this batch number is actually what it is. Again, it's not required. It's most people, not going to say most, many, any quality company is doing it. But I've even recently, this week, I was down in Greenwich, Connecticut with a bunch of meetings I had, and there was a company that a friend of mine was asking me about, and I followed up, and it had a third-party lab testing COA that was on the bottle, and I tracked it down, and the lab was in Florida, and okay, so the lab was stating that it was this or that, and which was great, which is what they're supposed to be doing. But the lab that was doing that, when I was studying that lab, or my partner he was kind of geeking out and getting, really granular, had many violations they were falsely reporting things that they were certifying. So that raised my eyes, like, wow, that's interesting. And then we also learned that in the state of Florida, it's been said that they're trying to get business their way to that state, and they're loosening up sort of their regulations to make sure that they're just trying to track business. But generally speaking, third-party lab testing, always look for that, super important. And make sure that the COA that's on the product that's there, you can track your batch and each lot number, super important. Okay. How much CBD is in my product? This is super confusing. And I find it to be intentionally, at times, I think there's no other way to describe it, but I think it's intentional that some companies are playing with that confusion thing to make it look like there's more CBD in the bottle than there is. So I have 3 examples of 3 companies that are up here: Charlotte's Web, Medterra, and my company, Primabee. Charlotte's Web is widely considered as the blue chip standard, $500 million valuation company. They've been around for a while, and I like that. I like to use that bottle as an example. I'm copying sort of the big boys like that. Medterra is a big boy too, maybe not at the level of Charlotte's Web, but if you look at the bottle, this bottle says 60 milligrams. It says right up there 60 milligrams. This bottle says 1,000 milligrams. Okay. People that don't know what CBD is, they go to the store and they're like, wow, I'm just going to go to the one that says more on the bottle than the other one. So what you have to look for is that 1,000 milligram is for the entire bottle. The 60 mg that's up there for Charlotte's Web, they're stating that 60 milligrams is per the milliliter, the dropper that's in there. So people know when they open that up, they're going to get 60 milligrams of CBD of that oil. Generally speaking, for a 1 fluid ounce bottle like that, that's 30 milliliters. So 30 milliliters of volume times 60 milligrams of CBD. So that bottle will have 1,800 milligrams in that bottle. But if like someone went to the store and they're both side by side, someone might see the 1,000 milligram and say, "Ooh, that seems like a lot more than 60, so I'm going to take that." So it's super important you understand what that's all about. Okay, calculating serving amount. So there's a lot of factors that are in there. There's health, there's weight, there's your sex, your age, lots of different things that determine that. So we often get asked, okay, I want to start taking CBD. How much do I take? Well, it's a complicated question. It's not, you can't, what's good for you might not be good for her or him or that guy or that guy. So that's more of a sit down with somebody, do your homework and with them and make sure and talk it through with a qualified person.
Manufacturers really specify on the back instructions, or are they just leaving the interpretation of knowing?
It's okay. So because of the cycle of how new cannabinoids are, nobody is going to tell you on the bottle in writing what exactly to take. Okay. If you see that, that's a red flag right off the bat. I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me. So when I was doing my research about CBD in general, and I live in Chatham, Mass, which is 20 miles from here or so, I didn't know what CBD was. I went to the local CVS in Chatham, saw something on the counter that said CBD. I said, wow, this was in 2019. And I bought it. And I was looking at it and I was trying to learn about all these things. And once I started to understand and get my arms around the business, what they were portraying was completely false. Some slick guy somewhere, salesman, tricked someone at CVS, got their product on the shelf. There was no CBD in that product. It was like people were taking nothing. And so they technically weren't lying because the CBD that was extracted was coming from the seeds, not from the flower. And the quality CBD is extracted from the flower, not the stems or anything else, and certainly not the seeds. So I was blown away at something like that could happen at CVS. By the way, that product is no longer on the shelf at CVS, thankfully. So there's a lot going on with this in this industry. I hate to say this, but it's true. From my experience, 50% of the brands that are out there, minimum, are just flat out fraud. And there's a few people that are at the top of the pack who are doing everything by the book. And as a young brand, we're 2 years into the cycle. We're playing with the big boys. I want to become these guys. And the only way that I know how to do this is to be transparent and to educate people one at a time of the fundamentals of what CBD is. Okay, there's a couple websites that I always push people towards that have questions. projectcbd.org and nih.gov, that's the National Institute of Health.gov. They're both peer reviewed. nih.gov is it's scientific. There's research people. There's physicians that it's like a big think tank that are sharing all sorts of information. It can be a little complicated to read that, but if you go into the search bar for either Project CBD or nih.gov and you put in an ailment like menopause and CBD, it's going to spit out a whole bunch of super important information. I'm going to share a story with you yesterday that is kind of showing at light speed how quickly things are happening. On Wednesday, I met with a woman in Greenwich whose son is autistic, and they just finished a clinical trial. He was in a group that came from NYU Medical Center, Langone, and the third trial just finished. And the kids that were part of that, her son's name was Jake. had a profound response to CBD, a profound response. They were high megadosing these kids. They were giving them 700 milligrams of CBD a day, which is a lot. And me talking to the mom, she was telling me things like a lot of kids, or not kids, a lot of people that are autistic, they're highly prone for seizure disorders, but they're also they experience anxiety, they don't sleep well, they're not calm. She told me about her son was doing a lot of this thing called stimming, which is a way for him to deal with his frustration. But while her son was on this trial, it all went away. He was less aggressive. He was sleeping like a baby at night. The stimming completely stopped. He was always in a state of calm. And so when the trial ended to today, it's like her son was in 3 trials. It was almost like he was a different person, but now it's all creeping back, and she's trying to figure out what her next steps are. But that's kind of a side story. But the dosing piece and buying from a quality company are super important. But the science is coming; it's catching up every day. The science is moving at light speed. So, which brings me to the next slide here. So these pharmacological studies are happening more and more every day. Oh, I'm in the wrong slide here. Sorry. Reuters, NIH, Bloomberg. Okay, you've heard of them. Google this yourself. But there's evidence, indisputable evidence that's growing substantially more and more every day. They're using CBD, and they're finding how it's helping with COVID relief, and that's coming. And there's articles I was reading about CBG, which is a different cannabinoid, et cetera. But I'm not here to state that take CBD and you're not going to get COVID. But I am telling you that it has the attention of a lot of people, and that evidence is mounting every single day, and things are unlocking profoundly in a good way. So again, the word science is catching up is absolutely happening. Okay, CBD usage becoming mainstream. This is a favorite slide of mine. As a golfer and an aging athlete, I love the fact that some of my favorite golfers out there, Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, although he went over to live, so I'm kind of mad at him right now. Side story. Billy Horschel and lots of other ones are using CBD to help manage their bodies to recover. They're not doing this for fun, okay? There's lots of Olympic athletes who are talking about it. Kerry Walsh-Jones, gold medalist, Lolo Jones. Major League Baseball. Okay. This fall, this is nuclear. Major League Baseball came out with Charlotte's Web is now endorsing, or Major League Baseball is endorsing Charlotte's Web as a trusted go-to company that helps with recovery in a myriad of ways. That Major League Baseball has just taken a quantum leap by bringing CBD and cannabinoids into their fold. I couldn't ask for someone better than Major League Baseball. I mean, I thank them for doing that. It's an amazing thing. So there's lots of other athletes, Gronkowski, the NBA, NHL. We could go on and on from a sports side. I was watching an article or listening to a podcast recently, a few months ago, with a quarterback from the Milwaukee who was talking about how CBD is part of his life now, and It was fascinating to me that he was talking to Joe Rogan, who's a podcaster, and how it's one of the biggest parts of him staying healthy as an aging quarterback who's been in the NFL for 20 plus years. On the celebrity side, just some notables that are out there. Tom Hanks, let's start with Michael J. Fox. So Michael J. Fox suffers from Parkinson's disease. He's developed a foundation called the Fox Foundation. It's in Cornell University, along with Tom Hanks, and they are having tremendous success with a lot of trials that they're working with CBD for all sorts of reasons, and they're putting a lot of money into it. From the Parkinson's standpoint, Michael J. Fox is having amazing results. And again, it's so early in the cycle, you can't say, okay, take CBD and your Parkinson's is going to go away, but it's moving the needle, and it's happening. Other people, Jennifer Aniston, Whoopi Goldberg, Morgan Freeman, Google them, and you will see there's a plethora of information about them. Michael J. Fox, there was a last March, there was a guide that was published from Cornell University under the Fox Foundation about Parkinson's, which I read it, and it was amazing. I think there were 1,900 people that were studied in this trial, and how the profound results had happened. Okay, so before we get to the questions, I want to just say that the evidence is growing. It's becoming more and more indisputable every day. Evidence by just on Wednesday, me speaking to this woman in Greenwich, Connecticut, whose son, coming off that trial, she told me something that made me think of myself. She said the doctor that's treating her son has been screaming as loud as he can off the roof of the hospital about CBD, broad spectrum in particular, for this particular study, and it's becoming mainstream. It's happening more and more every day. The science is catching up. I said that 10 times. I'm going to say it 1,000 more times. Harvard is publishing all sort. Harvard Health Publishing is they're publishing many things about every day that you can go into and look at. It's very exciting. It's an amazing thing. I'm going to go back to the questions from the beginning, and we're going to come back to that in a second. Okay. What is CBD? CBD is, it's a molecule, okay? It's a compound. It stands for cannabidiol. Dave, question to you. Does CBD does it come from the marijuana plant? It's from the hemp plant. Smart man. Is there a difference? Is there a difference between CBD and THC, young lady? THC, it's not that it's bad, but THC gives you that euphoric high that people have. Can you get high by taking CBD? No. THC you can, not CBD. What does CBD do to the body? It's locating deficiencies in your body. It helps with that. It brings you back to homeostasis. Benefits of CBD, there's lots of them. It helps with sleep, all sorts of things. Young lady in the back, can you get high from CBD? No, you cannot. This gentleman back here, can you drive a car after taking CBD? Yes, you can. Is it safe for your pets? Yes. Proper dosing in the FDA. We talked a little bit about the dosing. The FDA is the governing body with CBD. And the dosing thing is coming. It's not there yet. There's something called pharmacogenomics, which is happening soon, which you'll be able to have blood drawn from your body. It'll tell you the deficiencies you might have and how many milligrams of whatever cannabinoid will benefit you might happen. I just want to give you a couple things here. Number one, if anyone's interested in me sending you this PowerPoint, I'm happy to do that. And that's for all you people out there in Zoomer land. I'm 57 years old. I take about 80 to 100 milligrams every day. It's profoundly changed my life. I sleep better than I ever have. I used to take a small amount of Lexapro every day, which is an anxiety medication. I don't take that. With all the sports that I play, I try to do. I feel like my whole adult life, I was taking Advil or Tylenol or something. In about 2 years of me being on a regimen of CBD, I have not taken one Advil or aspirin, not one single day. Another interesting factoid about CBD is that last year, CBD has overtaken vitamin C as a supplement. Think about how profound that is. A lot of people in this world take vitamin C. And now CBD, not only has it overtaken it, it's by a large margin is growing. The difference is happening every day. From a metric standpoint, when CBD first came into the mix legally, the end of 2018 for the Farm Bill, worldwide sales were tracked at around $300 million, roughly speaking. Last year, 2022, it's the metrics vary, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 10 billion with a B, $billion. It's very big. I've also noticed for myself, I think I used to keep CVS in business with the amount of allergy medications I would take every day. I don't take any allergy meds, none. No more allergies for me. In our company at Primabee, we're getting lots of people who always call in, and I try to talk to everybody, as many people as I can. And people that have bee bites or mosquito bites. One person last year she had lots of jellyfish issues. She's putting the CBD on that, goes away, and it's been amazing. For me, I had one last final story about myself. I was clearing out my property a couple of years ago, and I had bad poison ivy on my legs, and I was panicking as to what to do. My wife said, "Why don't you try the CBD?" And I did. And guess what? Itch went away immediately, and it healed quickly. So CBD is not this fly-by-night hocus pocus healing. This is just the beginning of what's to come. Karen, did I miss anything? Okay. So we have, yes, thank you, Karen. We have a new product that we introduced about a month ago. It's a little bit confusing for the newbies that are on the hemp side of learning about cannabinoids and CBD, but there is a way to extract a trace amount of THC from the hemp plant. It's a chemistry thing, but it's called Delta-9, and Delta-9, we're having tremendous success with people that are using it because it has a very mild amount of THC that helps with that euphoric high. And when we developed the product, we thought it was going to be mainly for young people like my kids' age in their 20s. But we're getting more and more people that are seniors that are 65 and above that are using it for relaxation and for sleep. Karen is one of those people, and Karen has been a great advocate. She uses it a lot, right?
I will tell you that I was having so much trouble sleeping. Somebody gave me 5 joints. I tried it. Oh my God, I really do this when I was younger. And so then I went to the dispensary and I got some sleep mix. And I tried them and yeah, they helped, but I was a little loose on my feet. When these came out, and they're legal, because the Farm Bill says the hemp plant is legal. I started these and I take it an hour before I go to bed and I'm so ready to sleep. Now, I don't know whether any of you have difficulty sleeping. I wish I didn't, but I do. And I like to take one of these, get ready for sleep, go to bed, think, and go off into the sunset, which is. But anyway.
So yeah, so Karen likes this product a lot, as do I, and many people do. But it's a new product that we have that's in the cannabis family. We call them Primabee Buzz. It's Delta 9, and we've just introduced that about a month ago. Dave, to get back to your question about topical. So yes, by using a topical on your body, it will eventually absorb into your bloodstream. But it's not, to get to your endocannabinoid system from your skin is not, the preferred way of doing it is to take the tincture oil, put it under your tongue, all the way back to the back door. That's where your endocannabinoid system exists. So you want to absorb it the right way. That's the best way to do it. But people topically, it's what's happening. Like if you have a pain in your elbow, the CBD is disrupting the inflammation right there where the pain may be. So you're not going to get a general wellness of CBD for your whole body. It's going to be remote, just to that particular.
So the receptors in different parts of the body, once they have CBD in that area, but send the receptor.
Yes.
We don't have a problem.
Correct. But so that's a great point. So I take about 80 to 100 milligrams roughly a day, and I got an injury in my right side calf last Sunday, and I'm battling that. So I'm taking CBD a lot, which is helping keep me healthy, keep me homeostatic, in balance. But you still do get injured. So it's always been an issue my whole adult life. It went away for a long time, but I pushed it last week too hard. I had 4 straight days of 2.5 hour, 3 hour paddle matches, and I tweaked it. But putting the CBD on it is tremendously helping. So, but yes, you take it when you're ingesting it, when it's absorbing into your system to get to those receptors in your brain, CB1 and CB2. That's the best way to do it. But topically, it will eventually get there, but it's going to, by the time it gets there, David, it's going to, it's not as strong.
What is the biggest challenge you folks have in growing your business?
Great question. I would say that I'll answer it 2 ways. The biggest hurdle that we have is that it's misunderstood. So people don't understand it and they don't trust it. But that, I also look at that as our biggest opportunity, because we're trying really, really hard to just meet people one at a time and explain to them how fascinating this world is. This is just the beginning. So the hurdle is widely misunderstood, and a lot of bad guys that are out there making life difficult. A lot of super smart people that I know are just learning about it, and it's but it's coming. And I said, the science is catching up. It's becoming more indisputable every single day.
What one do you take care of?
80 to 100. Great question. So what I do is I use our tincture oil every day, 1 milliliter, which is 1 dropper, with 60 mgs right there. And then I take our edible gummies as well. So I mix it up. So there's lots of different ways to get there. Some people prefer soft gels, which is a pill. I learned something last year recently that 70% of people above the age of 70 don't like to take pills because they have something with their reflux swallowing. So the soft gels is not right for everybody. The gummies are great, but some people don't want to chew something that's sweet. But to answer your question, predominantly, like the foundation of my CBD is with our tincture oil. Anything else? You guys back there are very quiet.
Question.
Okay, great question. So when my partner and I were trying to figure out how we were going to get into this in this industry and is it worth it or not, so many brands that are out there, not the good guys. These guys, these are the good guys for sure. There was a lot of hippy dippy, like look and feel that we didn't want. We also didn't want to get too antiseptic and hospital-like. So we tried to do something that was a little more user-friendly, appealing to the eye. But I was fascinated by bees in general. And bees are all about harmony. They're harmonious. And they live a life, believe it or not, of love and they take care of one another. And I was really just enamored by their whole culture. But one of the things that we're doing is we're a very small company. We probably have 1,600 customers. But one of the things that we're tinkering with is we're putting beehives out into the farm, and the bees pollinating the hemp plants and making honey from the hemp is something which is really fascinating to me. And the next evolution or down the pike is that when we start growing ourselves and extracting ourselves, we're gonna make honeybees very much part of that. So it's kind of a branding thing, but there's also we're excited about kind of marrying those two.
And it's real good looking. The logo.
How would you equate your 80 to 100 milligrams daily to a class?
Okay, that's a good question. So for broad spectrum, so first of all, insurance is looking at this and it's coming. It's coming. There's someone that I'm working with who owns a health insurance company that is looking very closely at how CBD is making people healthier. And from his perspective, they're going to be putting in less claims that they're going to have to pay out. And hence, they're going to be living longer and they're going to be paying him premiums for longer. So selfishly, he's looking to grow his business and keep people healthier longer. The insurance industry, I'm not so sure that that's what they have in mind. I think lots of times they're treating symptoms rather than making people healthy. So those are two different things. I'm not knocking the insurance world, but that's kind of what I'm seeing and reading. As far as the cost of it, it's, so, you know, we're pricing our products about 20 to 30% less than what's on the market, because we're frankly trying to just get our business on its feet, and we're trying to build trust within the community.
What would the price of
So that,
Charlotte versus yours be?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's definitely, it's a little more money than mine. That woman I was referring to before, whose son in Connecticut, he was on 700 milligrams a day. And she's faced with a new problem, and it's not a money thing for her, because she's, they're an affluent family, but for the cost that would take to keep her son properly medicated at 700 mgs a day was going to be somewhere between $18,000 a year. That's a lot of money. And she said to me, most people that were in her son's trial can't afford that. So she's talking to me about a way that we are working on our side to be able to get a higher concentration of CBD milligrams to people that are you know, in that autistic community. But it's not cheap. So that bottle, my bottle, I think is about 85 or 90 bucks. And so 60 milligrams. So there'd be $90, you know, 85, 90 bucks a month if you're taking 60. Again, the dosing is different for everybody. I always like to say low and slow. So you start off with 20 or 30 milligrams and kind of work your way up. And the other point I want to make about the absorption rate takes a minimum. And the doctor who got me into this, the chiropractor, he says it happens in 7 to 10 days. I always not battle with him. You know, we talk about, I dispute that. I think it's a 30-day time frame before it really absorbs into your system. Anything else?
Well, if you knit, you can use hemp yarn.
Oh, I forgot to use Karen's prop when we were getting back to the hemp. This is an example. Hemp. This is hemp. It's yarn. So, any further questions?
I think there's going to be a trade-off. You're not taking painkillers. You're pharmaceutical blindsided by the fact that giving everyone pills. It goes to all parts of the body. I know this does, but this is the more natural, neutral, homeopathic, so to speak, versus, you know, pill interaction. I'm sure insurance companies look at the cost of it. Look, pills are cost today, and this could solve it. Another incentive for insurance companies say, wait a second, let's open our eyes to that costs. Group help.
Yes.
Keep Merck in business.
That's absolutely right. I do want to make one other point too, per what you're saying. There is an interaction that can happen, and we have a lot of customers who are, you know, a little bit older. And one of the common questions that I get is, does CBD interact with other medications? And one medication that I know it does is people that do take blood thinners. It does interact with that because fundamentally CBD is making your body function better at all levels. And one of the things it's doing, it's lowering, it's your blood, it's thinning your blood. So your blood is that much more efficient. So people that are taking blood thinners, always consult your doctor. Thank you very much. On your way out, we have some samples or a little. Okay. My card is on there. If anyone ever wants to speak to me directly, you can call me. My phone number, my mobile number is there. Call me anytime.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
Before 9 p.m. though.